Hey guys, Version Vinyl with you again today. So I've got something today that I'm really stoked about. I'm really excited that I found it because I've been looking for it for a while since I started collecting, and it's been one that sort of seemed to be a little bit hard to find. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that, but it's certainly over here in Israel, it's not something that's readily available. And anyway, so yesterday I went to the record shop to pick up Live at Pompeii, Pink Floyd Live at Pompeii, which I showed yesterday. I was super excited about getting that. As you know, as I said, it's like one of my favorite concert films of all time, and to have it on an actual official album finally after all these years was really exciting. Anyway, so, when you're in the record shop, you can't just walk away with one. It's like, I don't know, the addiction, it runs deep. Anyway, so I'm perusing the shelves. This particular record shop is called Beatnik Records. It's in Tel Aviv. I really like it. It's got a good vibe. The guys that work there are very friendly, very cool, helpful. And they've got a pretty cool selection of stuff. So I'm having a look through the racks to see. Quite often you can find like some cool secondhand stuff. Sort of amongst everything, and I've actually picked up quite a lot of my record collection from there as secondhand records. Anyway. I found, I did see online that they had, I wanted to get some Coltrane, and in particular the Thelonious Monk album with John Coltrane, and I found that, and it was like, I grabbed that. So I thought, yeah, okay, I've got two records, sweet. I'll just to have a look what they've got, and I thought, I'll just check the Zappa section because you never know. And lo and behold, what do I find? This absolute beauty right here, Overnight Sensation by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, or Zappa and the Mothers, or however you want to look at it. Hang on a second. No, okay. My son was calling me, and now he's not calling me. Anyway, threw me off what I was going to say. So this here is, from what I can tell, it's an original pressing. So here's there's the record there, the discreet label, and there's the album cover. It's got a gatefold there, and you've got like all the lyrics, photos of the band. On the back there, more of that insane artwork there. Really cool. One of my favorite Zappa album covers, probably my favorite. It's really cool, the artwork. Hey Tommy, my son just arrived. How you doing, buddy boy? Yeah. Just
showing your new record?
Yeah, I'm showing the record I picked up yesterday with the Zappa, the Frank Zappa, which was a really cool find because this one, this is one of my favorite Zappa albums. I think I really love his live stuff. That's, I think, where the band is always the most cooking. But as far as studio albums go and accessible studio albums go, I think this one is probably the best. It's my personal favorite. I really like Apostrophe as well. I really like One Size Fits All, and those sort of make up a period of time where he had like the sickest, probably the most beloved band, and let's go through the band on this album. So you got Sal Marquez on trumpet and vocals, Tom Fowler on bass, Bruce Fowler on trombone, the fantastic Ralph Humphrey, who sadly passed away not that long ago, and Ruth Underwood.
It sounds a bit like Ralph Wickham's.
Ruth Underwood, the genius marimba vibes and percussionist, and just incredible musician she is. And some of the videos where she's talked about the history of the band and stuff has been really cool to watch as well. There's a video where she's sitting with Terry Bozzio, with Ralph Humphrey and Chester Thompson and Chad Wackerman, and they're talking about their time in the Zappa band and stuff like that. It's really, really cool. If you haven't seen that and you're into Zappa and especially the drummers, and as everybody knows, the drum chair of the Zappa band is probably the toughest drumming gig you could possibly ever have. And so those guys are the cream of the crop when it comes to drummers. And so it's really interesting to hear their perspectives. Anyway, you've got Ian Underwood still in the band at this stage, doing flute, clarinet, alto, and tenor sax. The mighty George Duke on keyboards and synthesizers. And the also mighty Jean-Luc Ponty on violin and baritone violin. And of course, there's the man, Mr. Frank Zappa. Absolutely shredding it up on here. You know, it's interesting like how far Zappa and how fast Zappa's guitar soloing advanced, you know, from, let's say, like around the time of Hot Rats compared to this, which is only what, like Hot Rats is 69, this is 73. So, you know, it's a few, I guess there's a few years there for him to really hone his craft, but really he's just on a whole nother level. No, don't put the fan on just yet, it'll mess up the sound. Go put it in the bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah. And what else did I want to tell you? So, you know, it's interesting because like, you know, there's so many eras of the Zappa band. Of course, he has like the psychedelic craziness of the early Mothers of Invention, you know, with Freak Out and We're Only in It for the Money and all of that shit. And then there's like the you know, Flo and Eddie stuff. And some of that's really cool. And then there's like those 3 jazz rock albums, which it starts with Hot Rats. And then of course you've got, you know, the Flo and Eddie stuff in the middle, Burnt Weenie Sandwich and Chunga's Revenge and that stuff, 200 Motels. And then you get the other 2 jazz rock albums, which is like Waka Jawaka and the Grand Wazoo, which are really, I love those albums, you know, as a big jazz rock fan, that they really mean a lot to me. But I think like as far as like rock and roll albums or albums that are sort of, I don't know, that like the thing I love about this is that it sort of has a bit of everything that Zappa does in it. You know, it has the funny songs and the you know, satirical takes on everything, and it has the the X-rated material. It has the crazy solos. It has the killin' grooves, the excellent band, like one of the best bands, you know, that Zappa ever had, and you know, the playing on here is smoking. I mean, Ralph Humphrey's drumming is fantastic. You know, Jean-Luc Ponty's violin solos, George Duke's piano playing. I mean, everything on here, you sort of get that's what I love so much about this. And the songs, I mean, come on. Every song on here is a classic, and for a reason. Like, they're just so memorable. Camarillo Barillo, what a great opener. I Am the Slime, you know. Such a, like, I mean, when I first heard Zappa, it was, I got that compilation, Strictly Commercial, you know, and so it had stuff like I Am the Slime, it had Dirty Love, it had Zombie, does it have Zombie Wolf on it? I'm not sure if it has Zombie Wolf or not. It had Montana on it. So it got like it's got like at least half of this album on there. And it's like, so that compilation is kind of like the more accessible way. And I think if I was going to introduce somebody to Zappa, it might be with this album or with Apostrophe or with One Size Fits All. Like, those albums I think are the most accessible, but they still have all the quirkiness, all the craziness, all the elements that make Zappa's music so fantastic and interesting and cutting edge. And yeah, sure, like, you know, for the real diehards who want to hear Zappa really doing insane stuff, you know, like Uncle Meat or Burnt Weenie Sandwich or, you know, any of that kind of stuff. That's not somewhere I would send a beginner to. You know, it's just too intense. It's too much. Even for me, you know, I'm not like. I find that I have to be in the right kind of frame of mind to, you know, to absorb those albums. But this right here, you know, it's just. So here we go. Camarilla Barilla, I Am the Slime, Dirty Love. It's so sleazy and cool. Incredible solo in there. And then 50-50, man, that's a great tune. Like, just the band is just kicking on that. Zombie Wolf is great. It's interesting though with Zombie Wolf because the other versions of it that came after this obviously are more powerful. And you know, actually one of my favorite versions of Zombie Wolf would be, there's two versions of it that I really love. One is this album that was brought out after he died, which was a live album, a live compilation album of the, it's called The Best Band You've Never Heard in Your Life. And he had like an expanded horn section in that band. And they did all sorts of really cool stuff. And that's a great album, really powerful. And the version of Zombie Wolf on there is really strong. It's just kicks. And the other version of Zombie Wolf, it's not Zappa, it's not Frank Zappa's band, but it's Zappa Plays Zappa from the I had the Zappa Plays Zappa DVD back a while, you know, years ago when it came out. And on that version, you've got Dweezil and Steve Vai trading solos, and it's just sick, you know, like Steve Vai's just ripping it up, and so is Dweezil for that matter. He's absolutely smoking on that as well. So, and it's really heavy and dark, and that's a sick version of Zombie Wolf as well. So yeah, I mean, but I love the classic version too. This is great as well. It's just not quite as, you know, heavy and full on as the live versions would be. I think you could pretty much say that for every Frank Zappa track, to be honest. Dynamo Hum, well, there's your X-rated, there's your X-rated song right there. Frank and his sort of sleazy, horny best, I guess. And then Montana, you know, back to the comedy, you know, moving to Montana soon. He's gonna be a dental floss tycoon, you know, like, okay, cool. I think when I think of like Frank Zappa albums, Zappa for me is one of the most important artists of the 20th century, no doubt. One of the true musical geniuses of the 20th century. But I find that like even the albums that I adore, I wouldn't call any of them perfect albums. But I think I have to call this one. The reason this one is so high up for me is because I think it is a perfect album. There's no moments on this album that I think are weak. It just, the way the album flows, it goes by so quickly as well, and it's just all perfect. It's all fantastic. And you know, even albums like that, I think have more explosive playing on it, like, you know, live albums like Roxy and Elsewhere. You know, like, how many times do I want to hear those preambles? You know, I've heard that album so many times, hundreds of, well, I don't know if it's hundreds, but, you know, let's say 100 times, or I don't know, how many times would it be? Maybe it is hundreds. How many times do I need to hear, you know, Frank talking about getting into the paraphernalia of it all and, you know, devices, or talking about, you know, describing like the cheapness, you know, and all of that shit. It's funny and all that stuff. Like, I guess it is every time. Like, it does bring a little bit of a smile to my face. But I've heard it a million times, you know. So it's like there's a part of me that just wishes it would. You know, I wish I could have, like, if you could cut out all the preambles and then maybe have another song there, you know. And also the bebop, what is it called? Bebop Deluxe? Bebop, what the fuck is that thing called? The last track? I've just had a mental blank, but I'm not too crazy about that. Anyway, even some of the other stuff like You Can't Do That on Stage Volume 2, which is also an incredible live album from Helsinki, I think. Even that, like, there's moments where, yeah, okay, it's the goofballery and everything, it's funny, but like, you know, I'd rather just hear some music. Here, it's none of that. It just flows and it's awesome. I'm super stoked to get this copy too, because I'm sure that it's a original pressing. Yeah, I mean, it says here, manufactured by, it's Discreet Records, manufactured Warner Brothers, 1973. So yeah, very, very cool. Absolutely love this thing. I was super stoked to see it there in the racks. It had, like, they said that I got it like at a pretty good price, because it said that it does have a small scratch on it, but it doesn't affect the play too much. You know, you can hear a little bit of popping in the solo of Dirty Love, but it's still playable, so it's fine. Very stoked to have this one. One of the greatest albums of all time. And Zappa is one of the great geniuses of all time, and I love him. And I think he's one of the greatest guitarists of all time as well. Not because of, you know, he can shred better than anybody, but he's one of those guys who has his own voice on the instrument and did things with the instrument that nobody else does. And that's, you know, as you've heard me talk a million times about that, that's why I love John McLaughlin. That's why I love Alan Holdsworth. That's why I even love guys like Santana, because, you know, nobody sounds like them. They all sound like themselves. They all have a unique voice. And Frank most definitely does. And he was a genius, and he's sorely missed. Anyway, fantastic album. Very happy to have it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.